obviously we made it out alive because I'm sitting here telling you this story. So we got back to Arkansas, and I was working so hard on getting the TV show going that we weren't really doing a whole lot of investigation. And I did have a whole lot of stuff that was still in my house, like that had followed us from previous investigations, and it was like it was taunting me and wanting me to come back and investigate. But I was working so hard on the TV show, I didn't have time to go out and look for stuff, look for new things. But some of the things that would happen was like a direct, like, you know, it's something trying to rile you up. Like one morning, I woke up and I was getting ready for work, and I noticed on my neck, right here, there was the pads from your finger. It was a perfect finger burnt into my throat. It was like, it was not like a painful burn, it was a visual burn. Something just grabbed my throat while I was asleep. And that was the first time anything like that had ever happened to me, and I thought it was pretty wild. But I had to get the TV show going, and I worked my butt off, and it came that time when we were in the final steps. I had worked tirelessly on all this paperwork, all this writing to get everything put together and submitted to these networks. And we got to the point where it was time to submit. And my agent asked me, he said, legally I have to ask you, am I allowed to send this? I said, yeah. So he sent the stuff off, and 2 networks out of a page of networks that I sent to him to send this information to, 2 networks got back with him and said they were interested. So he called me back and he said, hey, these 2 networks are interested and they want to move forward. Do I have your permission to send them the next step? I said, yes. So he sent the next step, and he contacted me about a week later, and he said, hey, they're both interested in doing this TV show. They're drawing up the contracts right now. Next time you talk to me, it'll be to get on a plane to go sign these contracts and get your show started. I got really excited. And this was back before YouTube or any of the sites where you can stream stuff and put stuff out on your own. So this was a huge, major deal. And I didn't hear from him for a while. A couple weeks went by, nothing. I called him. I said, hey, give me some good news. He said, I don't have any. They're still drawing up the contracts, I guess. So I waited around, nothing for a long time. So about a month later, I called him. I said, hey, give me the good news. And he said, I only have bad news. And his status with a certain organization was revoked. And they made him stop talking to any companies that he was talking to for any of his clients. And I said, well, what does that mean? Like, how do I get your status back? How can I help you? He said, well, right off the bat, you're gonna have to join this organization, which is gonna cost you about $20,000 to get me back into where if I'm representing you, then I'll have my status back if you're a member of this organization. And I mean, I worked at Home Depot. I didn't have 20,000 cash laying around, so all hope was lost. I knew that the TV show wasn't going to happen. The trend in luck with my entire life, it wasn't happening. So I gave up on the TV show. Things weren't going so good, so I decided it's time to move back to Texas. Let's go. Justin had already moved back to Texas. All my friends were in Texas. I was in Arkansas by myself, basically. And there was no reason to be up there. So I moved back to Texas. Well, when I got back down there, Jimmy had gotten out of the Army. He had done his tours, and he was back in town. And it was time to reconnect. We had connected by phone several times while he was in Iraq and before he shipped out and went over. And I told him about the stuff that we'd been doing and the things we had seen. And he thought it sounded interesting. He wanted to go too. He wanted to check it out. He wanted to join the team. And which by this point, everybody had kind of split ways. Chris had gone to the Marines. Justin was working a job where he was working too much, where he couldn't really join in. So kind of at this point, it was me and Jimmy. And we just jumped in the car. We wanted to go check out something cool. So we just drove around. We did the backroads thing. And we went to this little cemetery. And when I say little, it's like you could, I don't know, 2 regular sized trucks maybe would fit inside this cemetery. There's maybe 10 to 15 graves in this thing. So we pulled up, and at this point, I had learned what energy was, and I knew what it felt like. I hadn't developed all of the techniques that I have now yet, but I knew what energy was. I knew how things felt. And we pulled up to this little cemetery, and I rolled the windows down. The air at this cemetery just felt extremely thick, and it had a really evil feeling to it. And I told Jimmy, I said, hey, let's sit here for a minute. Something feels wrong. I'm not sure what's going on. This feels bad. I haven't felt anything like this in a long time. So I started thinking maybe the Watcher's here and he's mad. It had been a while since I'd seen the Watcher. Been a while since I saw the Keeper. So what's out here? And we're sitting there feeling, kind of looking around. And in front of us, to the right, I heard a howl. And I started smiling. I started thinking about that one time we were at that body of water. And just a little while later, in front of us to the left, came a howl. And I started smiling again. And I said, oh man, it's happening again. And then behind us to the right, I heard another howl. And I started telling, I told Jimmy right there, I said, hey, in just a few seconds, there's going to be a loud, intimidating howl. And it's going to be deeper than any howl you've ever heard. It's going to sound crazy, and it's going to happen right over here. If it does, we're getting out of here. And just a couple of seconds after I finished saying that, here comes the deep howl. And Jimmy looked at me and he said, "Oh my God, you called it. How did you know that was going to happen?" And so I told him the story of the howl that we had experienced before. And so from that point on, Jimmy knew that the stories that I'd been telling weren't just stories. These things were really happening. And he was in. He said, "Let's do this."